Fellas, I'm beginning to think Chelsea might not be in the title race. It's only a hunch though. I swear, every week I see Gvardiol on the team sheet as a defender, yet every week I see him in positions like this. City just splashed £122 million on 2 centre-backs and a forward. They have Gvardiol though. Why? Omar Marmoush started on the left wing, should have known he wouldn't score in his debut. Wasn't the best week for anyone on that side of the fence. People are starting to turn on Maresca for his tactics and handling of his team, and why not? 1 win in 7 is unacceptable. The game moves fast, guys. 1 second they love you, the next, oof. If I were a football manager, I might just learn to resent anyone and everyone that talks about me and my club, positive or negative. But you don't have to worry about me, Enzo. I have only nice things to say. It's now all but confirmed that Bournemouth stand for deforestation. Here we have Antoine Semenyo pulling out the Spinaroonie in celebration. Truly disgusting. Apparently this is a red card? I don't know what's going on anymore. Hello, hope you're well. Welcome back. Subscribe if you haven't. Trying to hit 500k by the end of the year, so let's go ahead and do that. In the biggest event of the weekend, Kyle Walker's just joined AC Milan on loan from Man City, and journalists were waiting for him to arrive in Milan, only to be met by one of the Glazers. Seriously though, look at the size of that fucker. Good God, he's walking around like he owns the place. To be fair, I'm not going to be the one to tell him that he doesn't. That guy's huge. Chelsea legend Danny Drinkwater didn't get any tickets after requesting some from the club, so he immediately decided to switch sides and sit in the away end at the Chelsea City match. Fair enough. So I actually just looked up his Chelsea stats just to have a bit of fun here, and I couldn't believe it. They paid £35 million for him on a 5-year contract. He played 23 games for them and was on about £120,000 per week. So basically Chelsea gave this man about £31 million over the course of about 5 years to what? Drink water? That was a terrible joke. Maybe it's not the best look for Chelsea to not give free tickets away to ex-players and whatnot, but they're also down about £66 million because of this man with no return. I think he can afford his own ticket. The first game of the year for Chelsea and City was against each other. Casting your mind back to that moment, I don't think many people foresaw how the season would actually pan out. Chelsea with some great form, City with some terrible form. But based on previous and most recent results, it looks like nature is healing. So let's get on to the game. Based on how City was against PSG, I thought that we may be in for a Chelsea win at the beginning of the game. After seeing how nervous Kusanov was at the early stages, it looked like it was going that way. A mistake by him led to Chelsea taking the lead 2 minutes in. Horrible decision. And then Chelsea did just the worst job of putting pressure on a 20-year-old that was clearly just a massive bag of nerves after moving to a massive club and being put in the starting lineup for a massive game. The only time that they really put any pressure on him after that initial mistake, it led to Cole Palmer being fouled right outside the box. Before City gained some composure, it should have been 2-0 to Chelsea after City lost it yet again. Luckily for them, both Palmer and Jackson have dropped quite a few levels lately. Poor pass by Palmer, but Jackson should be going with his left foot here instead of bringing it back. And matches like this are very important. It's about Champions League spots for these teams, and they're only about 4 points between 4th and 8th right now. City, Newcastle, Chelsea, Bournemouth and Villa are all well within a chance. Throw Forest in there too because the season is still a long way to go and I don't think they'll finish 3rd. Anyway, going back to Chelsea, this is where I have to badmouth Maresca. Look at this image right here. It's what the majority of the match looked like. Sure, maybe at the start of the match, it looked like maybe this was the way to go based on how City were losing the ball left, right and center. But how many teams have you seen play like this against City and come away with a result? The answer is not many. The compactness by Chelsea was clearly done so City have no time on the ball at all, but you kind of need a disciplined defense that's really concentrating throughout the entire match for this to work, and maybe you also shouldn't be doing it against a team that specializes in off-the-ball movement. This may be a wounded City side, but they're still highly capable of inflicting massive damage on the break. Marmoush was caught offsides a few times, and I like the look of this guy. Very willing runner and looks confident on the ball. City were choosing not to spot his run a couple of times, but it was only a matter of time before they made the break and equalized. The City tactics all game was just get it over the top. It was so easy. And City exploited this with some real style. We have to give massive shout outs to their fullbacks for their running lines. They were incredible. Meanwhile, the tracking back of the Chelsea defense not so much. Gvardiol was drifting in between the defenders unattached all game, and Chelsea had no clue who should be following him. Matheus Nunes at right back was doing the same, and the equalizer came from a well-timed over-the-top ball that went through to Nunes. His shot bounces off Sanchez, and Gvardiol, with striker instincts, pounces on the rebound. And the worst part is that it actually just got easier for City as the game went by. Chelsea were incredibly passive in the attack, but still sending tons of bodies forward, and despite getting into some good positions when they inevitably lost the ball, it was just over the top and City were in business. They were spamming it. It's like when you're playing Tekken and your friend keeps spamming a low kick with King, and he keeps hitting you. It's annoying, it really is, but sometimes you just need to low block and you might fix some of your problems, and yes, I'm very proud of that line. Chelsea just did not know how to deal with this and plug their holes, and Edison decided to get in on the action. Great ball through to Haaland. Sanchez thinks he's Manuel Neuer, and Haaland chips it in. How have Chelsea spent billions of pounds but is still starting one of the most mistake-prone goalkeepers in the entire league every week? This club is really cursed when it comes to keepers. Kepa is still on the books, by the way. Chalobah wasn't showering himself in glory either. Fell on the floor and thought he was still at Selhurst Park when he came to. On the flip side, this was probably one of Haaland's best performances all season. He was dashing onto balls, the hold-up play was immense, it was a proper 9 performance. And apart from his goal, I do want to highlight his assist to Foden. He's bullying Colwill and just waiting for Foden to take up a position to receive. Watching this kind of forward play and then watching Højlund flounder about and Xerxes not even be in the final third when we're attacking it makes me sick. Brilliant composure by Foden to carry all the way and finish. But what are these Chelsea players doing? They've lost the 50-50 duel here and it's going towards Haaland in a 1v1 versus Colwill. 9.9 times out of 10, Haaland wins this individual battle, but the entire defensive line is just watching. You'd think that if any of them did the math and kind of anticipated what might happen next, then at least one of them would have caught up with Foden before that goal was scored. Awful game by Chelsea, seriously, from the tactics to the individual errors. Like I said, I did think that City were there for the taking after that PSG match. Turns out I was wrong. Guardiola looks like he hasn't slept in months. Hopefully he got at least one good night out of this game. Gvardiol, easily man of the match, was in good positions, won his duels, and he scored the goal that was the most important goal of the match, in my opinion. Apart from the early mistake, Kusanov did well in this game. Nice from Pep to keep him on until the 54th minute. And even better stuff from Bernardo Silva to always be so close to him and in his ear and supporting him throughout the entire thing. That's proper captain material right there. Give me 10 Bernardo Silvas, and I think I can do a job in the Premier League. Or, you know, I'll do a double on Spurs at the very least. Looking at the table is a bit crazy right now. Arsenal face Man City next week, and we could very well see City only 3 points below the Gunners if they win. Now City could do the funniest thing ever and lose to Club Brugge and not qualify for the next round of the Champions League. In case you didn't know, Brugge hasn't lost a game in all competitions since October of 2024. Come on, boys. On to the real match of the weekend, Bournemouth and Forest. Bournemouth hadn't lost since November. Forest had only lost once since November, and this match did not disappoint. It was brutal for Forest. For all the praise that we've given Forest recently, deserved praise by the way, I made a big video on them a couple weeks ago, I was not expecting this much of a hammering, but maybe I should have. 9 goals versus Newcastle and Forest in 2 weeks is insane work and highly deserved. Bournemouth's movements, their entire setup, it had Forest second guessing and not knowing what to do at all. Remember, Forest had the second best defensive record in the entire league before this. Justin Kluivert is simply on fire. Dongo Ouattara was in all the right places and looked like he was flying for his first goal of his hat-trick. Now, I've seen quite a lot of Forest games over the past 2 to 3 months, and let me tell you, they usually do not give away this many high-quality chances. Bournemouth had about 10 shots on target in that game as a whole, and a large part of this was because Bournemouth went up a goal to nil pretty early in the game, and Forest had to attack. They had to be on the offensive, which they usually aren't really used to doing, and that just left a lot of wide open spaces that Bournemouth really capitalized on, and it was great to watch. Iraola is a wizard, and I think Nuno might be happy he doesn't look at the table much, although they are still in 3rd place, so there's that. Side note, Kluivert could have had a second goal, but after dancing around the box with quick feet, he was found offsides, which I think is rubbish because this was a beautiful goal, and I think we should all really get together and start protesting. If a goal is aesthetically pleasing enough, It should stand. Am I wrong? That should be law. Anyway, Bournemouth take on Liverpool next week. Big match.
Who will be there? Do you care though? Who will be there?
The biggest controversy of the week. Premier League refereeing is riding on a luscious high at the moment. We've seen the no-carded choke. We've seen the two-footed lunge love tap. Just boys being boys. But I, for one, was not prepared for the cynical challenge. Straight red card? How? I tell you what, this officiating has done some good. It's united all fans of the Premier League together and given us a common enemy. A straight red for a foul that is clearly only a yellow. If you think this was a red, you are more deluded than all the people who actually believe this man's heart goes out to them. Update on this, the PGMOL reviewed this card and upheld it. It's so strange. Almost every challenge in all of the matches that I watched this weekend were rougher than this Lewis Skelly challenge, and not all of them even got yellow cards. So what's really going on here? So another bunch of stat lines talking about how Michael Oliver has given out 8 red cards to Arsenal over 55 games, significantly more than any other team, and many of these have seemed completely unjust, while he then goes and refuses to punish teams that deserve red cards against the Gunners. Now, I'm usually the sort of person that kind of rolls their eyes when people talk about officiating being the reason that they lose matches and that things go wrong for them, but I think when it comes to this guy and some of the decisions that he's making, it's pretty clear that there's a pattern and that he probably has something against Arsenal. Is anything going to be done about it? Probably not. Despite this, Arsenal prevailed 1-0 to them. Wolves got their own red card. That was a deserved red card. So justice, I guess. What else do we have here? Liverpool won. Well done to them. You're good at football. Fun fact, Spurs are higher than Nottingham Forest on the table right now on goal difference. Only teams to score more than them are Liverpool and Manchester City. But Spurs are 15th. Postecoglou is on borrowed time, I'm afraid. The Premier League is a great place with Jamie Vardy in it. It truly is. He reminded the Spurs fans how many titles he has, and they probably weren't too chuffed. Listen, sometimes you have to pop out and show people. By the way, why wasn't this a yellow card for antagonizing the crowd? Didn't Ndiaye get one for doing the bird celebration against Brighton at the Amex Stadium a day before? This was also at the Spurs Stadium, so way more antagonizing in my eyes. Could it be that they're kind of just making it up on the fly? Could be. Anyway, Spurs were so passive and both Leicester goals were just so easy. This win has propelled them out of the relegation spots and pulled Spurs down. They won't get relegated, but this is wild. And one of the reasons why they won't go down is because the bottom teams in the league right now are some of the worst teams that the league has ever seen. But also, don't forget, Leicester are one of them, and so are Everton. Those are Spurs' last 2 defeats. Since the start of December, Spurs are only above Southampton in the Premier League standings. Spurs fans and Dortmund fans have a lot in common right now. Banners calling for the upper management to make a change seem to be the order of the day in both cases. Chanting, "We want Levy out." Guys, don't be so selfish, okay? He'll sell for like £100 billion maybe. Something around that figure. It's doable. This team is just unreal. Why is there so much going wrong here? Injuries have definitely crippled them, but Ange Postecoglou has to take a lot of blame for this, for not adapting his playstyle a little bit with the squad that he has at hand. A lot of people have been apologetic of Postecoglou in the past. I have myself, but looking at this Spurs side and what they have at their disposal, this team is more than good enough to grind out a result against Leicester. Look at their starting lineup. Son, Kulusevski, Sarr, Porro, Richarlison. And I actually like Ange Postecoglou. He's one of the only Premier League managers with an actual personality. He has a philosophy. There's something admirable about sticking to it and all that. But if you think that injuries for a club, a Premier League club that has a £1 billion stadium, is enough of an excuse for the position that they're in right now, that's cope. It really is just cope. But then we go back to Daniel Levy, who obviously shoulders significantly more of the blame than the manager. Not very ambitious, hasn't brought in enough players, especially in this January window where they really need them. All I'm saying is that everyone deserves a little bit of the blame. But we also have to be real. Despite any of his shortcomings, Postecoglou wasn't exactly set up to succeed. Another manager is going to come in and will things be different? What did Antonio Conte say?
This is the first time in my career to see a situation like this. If they want to continue in this way, they can change manager, a lot of manager, but the situation cannot change.
It goes back to Mourinho being sacked before a cup final. It goes back to Spurs fans wanting them to lose against City so that Arsenal don't win the title last year. And finally, a team that isn't much better. Manchester United. Fulham hosted Man United and both teams did, I guess, okay defensively. It wasn't a fun match to watch. I wouldn't say either team were that good. Any goal that came was always going to come from a specific moment, which is exactly where the only goal came from. Martinez with a wild deflection, but it was enough. Toby Collier is already a GOAT and probably deserves a knighthood, if we're all being honest. It's a game of inches, and he proved it. And I usually lose in those games. Højlund still can't control a ball or make simple passes. Adama Traore proved once again that his sole existence here is pretty much just to bounce players, sky a few shots, and just look massive. No weight training, by the way. Amorim said he'd rather put a goalkeeping coach on than someone who doesn't give maximum effort. It's fair enough, man. I guess that's why Rashford's over here posting congratulations to the team through Instagram and sitting in boxes instead of being on the sidelines or in the game. Big fall from grace, this one. And there we have it. Let me know what you guys thought about the Premier League. We'll be talking about Dortmund either tomorrow or Wednesday, so you can watch out for that one. Subscribe if you haven't. And I started a Patreon quite recently where I'm going to be trying to build a bit more of a community over there, posting all the longer videos early and whatnot, but you'll get more information on that in the coming weeks. That's all for me today. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you're having a great day. Cheers, and I'll catch you in the next one.